Hi guys. Thanks for having me. I hope you can hear me. I'm freaking out nervous. I haven't been nervous to do, a lead in a while, but I don't know who's watching and so it freaks me out. And I have my trusty buddy Ryan here with her mask on to give me moral support. I don't know. Okay. This is my first time doing this. So I'm going to start with a prayer because that's really important. So I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer. Ryan, you can join me if you want. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And just for good measure, I'm going to do the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to Thee, to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, so that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, so that the victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. Amen.
Amen.
And yeah, a group that I love says that every time we meet, and it's really just like become one of my favorite prayers. So again, Joellen, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I literally screamed like before this just to get the energy out, but literally in a million years, like when I first started, I could never imagine doing anything like this. I was scared to death to share at a meeting because I was so worried about what everybody thought of me, and like sounding good. Like I had to be like this perfect alcoholic, you know what I mean? So I'm definitely past that. But I guess I'll start with my sobriety date. So my official final so far sobriety date is January 11th of 2012. But that's not when I came into AA. That's definitely not the first time I tried to stop drinking, but it's been 8 good years, 8 years, let's say, because like definitely not all good, a lot of ups and downs, but you guys have held me through it. So I guess I'll just start off with like, growing up, I remember my first house was like this beautiful big brick house in North Buffalo, and my dad was like deranged a little bit, and so he got in his head that hi Danielle. Okay. I'm so nervous I have to like take these off. Okay, that's better, because otherwise I'll just react to everything I see. So my dad decided to move us, to me, my brother, my sister, and my mom, to Black Rock because he thought that there were more kids there. And he was right. There were more kids there, but there were more kids, drinking, smoking, doing whatever they wanted. And I had a rough childhood. My dad was very demanding and controlling and abusive, and it still haunts me to this day, but thank God I'm sober because I get to work through it. And so I started drinking around age 12 or 13. I don't really remember, but I'm just like, I had like a bottle of Hypnotic with like my sister and her friends, and it was the first moment that I felt carefree. I felt, not self-conscious. I felt not full of fear. I just felt like I was accepted for once in my life, because I always felt inferior as far back as I can remember. And I'm just thinking like of all the trouble that I got me and my brother into by my like rebellious streak. Like my sister had like you know, it said college fund on it. It came from like her godparents, but it was just like nickels and dimes and stuff. So I got the brilliant idea to like steal it and go buy Lion King cards from a young woman down the street. And I thought nothing of it, you know? It was just like, oh, well, you left it out, so that's mine now, and I'm gonna take it, you know? Um, and I kind of live my life like that. Like, if you don't get caught, it didn't happen. And I still do sometimes. But I'm trying, you know, to be a good person nowadays. But it was always like that. Me and my brother were partners in crime. We would destroy my sister's stuff, and you know, and then we got a little bit older, and it seemed more like my brother and sister got along more, and I was the middle child, so, and I was the only one besides my mom, obviously, getting abused. So I just looked up at the number. It's freaking me out. Okay. And so I started to feel like I didn't have anyone, you know, I didn't have anyone to talk to, and I was in a lot of pain. And so when I found drugs and alcohol, it was like, you know, I hit the jackpot, you know, because I didn't have to think for a little bit, you know, and I didn't have to be me for a couple hours. Like, I was golden. So, you know, I went to like Campus West. It was just like a public school, and I did really well up until middle school. And then fifth grade, I transferred to City Honors under my dad's, you know, advice. Well, it wasn't advice, it was do it or else, you know, and so lo and behold, like I went there, and like everybody else came from North Buffalo, like, and so those were the kids, you know, like growing up on Crescent, and I was again the one that was different and, you know, poor. I thought, like, I didn't know. But we lived in a 1 bedroom house, really, with like an, it was like a loft area that my parents turned into a bedroom. And you know, it was definitely not glamorous, but we had everything. You know, we always had food, we always had clothes. But again, it was a controlling environment, and I was really scared a lot of the time. And so I drank and smoked weed and cigarettes, you know, as often as I could, and that was pretty often. It come to find out, I definitely found the kids in my school that were doing the same things I was, and I always wanted to go harder. I always wanted to just not stop, you know? They'd be like, oh, I'm feeling it. I'm like, yeah, okay, like that's the start. Like, let's continue, you know? And so I almost, like, you know, failed out of that school, like, but I knew that it was really important. Like, I always did the bare minimum. So I went to summer school every, you know, year in high school, but I made it through. I had to like graduate later than everyone else. And so like through my life, there's just always been like an asterisk in my head. Like no matter how well I do, it's always like, but this is why, you know, like I got into City Honors, but like they let in more people than usual that year. So that was why, you know, and I have a new job coming up, and I'm like, so grateful for it because I was unemployed and no income for 2 months. But it was just like, I heard that a lot of other people got that same job, and I'm like, that's why, you know, like so I'm working on that. I know God, that's not what God wants for me. So I'm definitely working on that. And I know that that's like delusion, but when I came in here, I had every type of false negative delusion about myself. So it's a lot better than it was. So I took a semester off before I went into college because I just convinced myself that I was not smart, not capable, you know. And I just wanted to party. So I did every freaking night. Like, I had like this core group of friends, and we all just partied, but I was the worst. I was a blackout drinker. I blacked out. I passed out every single time. Every single time. I don't have a lot of memories of my life. But I do remember vaguely that every time I would get into a scrape, like fall down and really like mess up my body, like break my nose and stuff, like I would be like, okay, like I can't keep doing this. Like I'm gonna take a break, and I would announce to the world, which was my four friends, and then like everyone at the grocery store that I worked at, that I was quitting drinking. And then by the end of the week, I'd be like, man, I want to drink. And it's not because I need to, it's because I want to. So I would inevitably pick up a drink and forget all about, whatever bad thing happened, like whenever I had a bad thing happen, whenever I had a good thing happened, it was, I need a drink. And I remember one Christmas, my dad had like gone insane a little bit and was like, we were yelling and fighting with him and stuff, and that was the first time that I had ever stood up to him, and it felt really good, but I was very upset afterwards. And so we went from my dad's parents' house to my mom's parents' house. That's like a 25 to 30 minute drive from like Black Rock to Niagara Falls. And the whole time I was begging my mom to buy me booze, like anything. And she was my big enabler because I was underage. And I remember I was like, I'm not going into Nana's house until like, I get something, So she bought me like a 24-ounce can of beer, maybe two, and it wasn't enough, but it was something, and then I proceeded to get wasted like the rest of the night after I left there. And I always just felt uncomfortable with my family, and I didn't know why, because they're lovely people and they love the shit out of me. But it was just this internal, like, I'm not good enough. And so I went on like that. I started college, I took 2 courses, and one was English, because I'd always really liked English. And the other was a drug and alcohol counseling class, because I was like, I know that really well. And I just remember like doing really well in the English class, and then the drug and alcohol class, they wanted us to go to like an AA or an Al-Anon meeting. And I chose Al-Anon because I felt like you guys were going to tell me about my drinking, and I didn't want to hear it, But it was nearing the end. That was like 2 years before I quit drinking. And I remember like, obviously my mom was like trying to get me not to drink, and we would have screaming matches, and I would always win because I would not give up. It was like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be nice or I'll be evil until I get booze, And I was doing whatever I could get my hands on, but it wasn't enough. Apparently I wasn't that cool, because all I could get was like a little bit of Coke, and then like I would take like cough and cold pills on the regular, because it was like whatever. That's a drug story, and it just doesn't matter. It just matters that like I put everything I could into not feeling the way I felt when I was sober. And yeah, I remember my last drunk was, my friend was going away to rehab, or not my last drunk, but like before I came in AA. So my friend was going away to rehab the next day because her mom had found that she was doing pills. And we didn't like wake up early enough, so she didn't get in. But the night before, I, was like, you're not going to be able to drink for 30 days. I didn't know how long, but a while. So we have to get loaded. And my boyfriend at the time said, don't drink tonight. Like, she's trying to do better for herself. Like, you really shouldn't drink. You drink all the time. And so he said, like, if you drink tonight, I'll break up with you. And I didn't want that to happen. But I couldn't not drink, you know? And there were plenty of times before that where I had thought maybe I'm an alcoholic. Um, so I should stop drinking so I don't become an alcoholic, so I don't have to stop drinking. And that never worked. You know, I would watch Intervention with a Four Loko or a bottle of whiskey and be like, I'm not that bad. Like, but I was. Like, what the hell was I doing with my life? You know, I was living a double life and getting into all kinds of trouble. And um, so he knew that my history, and he was saying don't drink. And I just waited for him to go to bed, and I bought booze and got wasted. And I think that was the first time that anybody really just said to me, don't drink tonight. You know, they would always say it's getting out of control, or I'm not going to let you, but they never like really faced me with that decision of could I not drink for one night. And I had been drinking daily at that point for years. I drank to get to sleep. I drank to wake up. I drank, you know, as often as I could. And so my friend didn't get into rehab, and we went to AA. And actually, a couple months before that, you guys probably know, a lot of people know Nick Maniszewski. I knew him through one of my friends in high school, and he had tried to 12-step me like a couple months before, probably, and because his cousin got sober, my friend Nicole, and I was like, what are you like, I was a mess. Like that, the night before, I was wasted and like went to Riverside Pool and scraped my knees up, and then got fired from my job because I couldn't vacuum. Like, and I was just like, what's the problem? You know, like I like to drink no matter what I do. And he was like, okay, just watch it for a little bit. Maybe you'll find the way. And so then I did. I went to Iron Horse was my first meeting, and you know, we tried to like look cool and act like we knew everything, and they were like, anybody's first meeting? And we were like, no. But really we were scared to death, you know? And so that was my first meeting, and I really felt like these people, they knew what was wrong with me. Like, I could try and deny all I wanted, but I felt it at the core of my level. Like, I'm an alcoholic, and I have to do these steps, and then I'll be better. That's what I heard. And so at my third meeting, I met my soon-to-be first sponsor, and, you know, she took me under her wing, and she brought me to a home group, and they really gave me the foundations of, like, powerlessness and the steps and service. But it just wasn't the right fit for me, and I really felt like I needed something softer and gentler. And so it took me years to figure that out because I was so people pleasing. I couldn't even see what I needed. I thought that like harshness was what I deserved. And so my sobriety's been nuts, dude. Like right before my first year anniversary, my father killed himself, and you know, those people in that home group, they surrounded me and they said, just, we'll be here for you. Go to a meeting. And I did, and I was able to get through that. I didn't know how to feel because he was my abuser, but, you know, of course I felt terribly upset. And I never thought of a drink because I had done those 12 steps, you know. Thanks, babe. She's bringing me tissues. But yeah, I guess I skipped forward a little bit because I didn't get sober immediately. It was kind of trial and error and like staying sober through fear of drinking again. And so I knew that you guys told me I couldn't drink, so I decided to smoke pot one day, and it was terrible. It was awful. It was like 10 minutes of fun, and the rest was just like paranoia. And I was like, well, that didn't work. And so I kept on with the steps, and I was at my ninth step, and I was trying to make amends to my mom, but like I was so new, like a couple months off a drink, and just my brain was scrambled. It was not able to like absorb it as much as I am today, like feel the feelings. And I had so much anger and resentment towards my mom that I didn't feel sorry. I knew I should be sorry, but I wasn't yet, and so I just didn't want to drink. So I started making amends to her, and the obsession came back, and it grew louder and louder and louder until, I was calling my sponsor, I was calling my grand sponsor, and I was shaking for hours, just going, do I drink or do I not drink? I don't want to drink. I don't want to be this suicidal, depressed mess that has nothing going in her life for her, but I cannot feel these feelings. Like, they're too much. And so I went to the store, and I bought like Coors Light. That was my drink. And I drank. I was so scared, but I was praying, and I was like, well, fuck it, I need to do this. And so I got drunk, blacked out most of it, but I know that my grand sponsor called me back while I was drunk. And we talked for a little bit. I don't even think I told her that I was like drinking. I'm not sure. But I know that at the end of the conversation, which was quite a long conversation, I told her, okay, I'm going to finish the job. And I remember she told me that a week later at a meeting, and that was the first time I felt utterly powerless, because I was doing all the right things. Wasn't God going to give me sobriety? But I was doing the bare minimum again. It was like the 12 steps on Rebecca's terms, like I wasn't able at the time to fellowship. I wasn't able to let you people in, because I was just so scared of what you thought of me. And if you knew me, you would hate me like I do, And so after that, after my grand sponsor told me that, she became my sponsor. And also I just remember like sitting in my car after the meeting and just kind of going, God, I don't know if this is the end. I don't know if I'm done drinking, but please help me. And it was like the first honest prayer, because before that it was always, God, help me because I want to feel better, So that was the start of my sobriety. And so then my dad passes away, and then I'm going to school. I graduate with my associates in early childhood. And I go on to Buff State, and I'm living with Rayanne. And we're having a ball, just like two crazy nutheads, like pinging off each other, like passively aggressively, of course, because we had no tools. And just trying to like sponsor and work a job and try and live a healthy life. I still had a lot of anger towards my mom, but I wanted to learn how to love her, and so I started going to Al-Anon around that time, and she went to Al-Anon, and that was really helpful. And so 2015 is when I went to Australia, and that was the craziest time of my life, because it's like when you travel and when you're like all alone in another country, it's like everything is like exacerbated. It's just like times 10 real life, you know? And so I had the most beautiful time of my life. I had the worst time of my life, everything in between. And I found a sponsor there that would tell me what to do. It's exactly what I was looking for. You know, she related to me with trauma, and that was the first time that anyone had ever done that. And so I just clung to her like she was my savior. But she was insane. And she turned me against the whole rest of Alcoholics Anonymous. I couldn't trust a single person. And my life was hell. I was suicidal, I was depressed, and I was sober. And there came a moment where, like, I was questioning her the whole time because some of the shit she said was just, like, way off the walls wacky. But the final straw was, like, she told me to get rid of my cat and my tattoos. And I was like, goodbye. See you later, crazy woman. But during the time that we were sponsoring, like, she was sponsoring me, I'm not laughing because this is not funny, but Rayanne's making me laugh. She convinced me not to talk to my family, my mom, my sister, and my mom was, had stage 4 breast cancer, and so this is hard to talk about. But when I ended that sponsorship relationship, I was like, well, what do I do now? Do I talk to my mom? And I had really not felt God in a long time. I'd pray and cry and pray and cry and just be like, where the fuck are you? But just because I didn't feel him didn't mean it wasn't there. So I remember going out. I had no conception of God by that time. And I remember going out and looking up at the stars and being like, what should I do? Should I talk to my mom? Give me a signal. I have no idea. I shit you not. I get back into the house and I get a text message from my high school friend, Nicole. And my mom had helped her when she was struggling with her addiction. And she lost her mom when she was in high school. And she texted me and she said, you're really going to regret it if you don't talk to your mom. And so I did. How could I not? It was amazing. And that was like my biggest God shot ever. Thank you, Nicole. I don't even know how much that means to me, but it does. And so I was terrified to talk to my mom. I didn't know how it was going to go, if this was the right decision. All I had to do was like have faith in God and love and myself, I guess. And 3 days before I was gonna go see my mom, another mystic, totally crazy thing happened. So I was working at a daycare in December. I ended that position in December the year before, and this was like February of 2016. And so I hadn't spoken to this gentleman. He was a grandparent from the daycare. I hadn't spoken to him in months. Like, he didn't know anything about me, really, because I wouldn't let people in back then. And 3 days before I was going to go meet my mom, he messaged me, and he said, do you want to come to a Buddhist meeting? And lo and behold, I had been practicing this exact random-ass Buddhism in Australia. 2 of my roommates were Nichiren Buddhists. And that's the first time when I was in Australia that I heard Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and it's changed my life completely. So I had always been suicidal, for sure. I thought it would just be easier, Sorry if this doesn't have anything to do with alcoholism, but this is my story, And it totally fucking does, because my alcoholism always tells me that I'm wrong and I'm different and I'll never be good enough. And so I started this Buddhism because that guy contacted me and asked me to go to a meeting. And couple weeks in, a couple weeks into my membership of this organization, he told me, or no, he didn't tell me. Sorry, this is nerve-wracking, but I remember, um, deciding for the first time that I was going to get rid of my just in case pills. And if you get what that means, I'm really sorry, and I hope you get through it too. And so it was that moment I decided that, like, I, good or bad, was going to live this life. Give it a shot, because sobriety has been really good to me. And I met with my mom at my Nana's house, and it was beautiful. She had no hard feelings. She was just, I was like the prodigal daughter. Like, she was just so, I'm looking at a picture of my mom right now at her last birthday party with me and my sister and brother, and it's really making me upset, but I know she's here. And I'll try and continue on. So we had a rocky relationship for the first couple weeks, but all of a sudden I lost my job, and within that same week I lost my apartment. And so I was living with my mom again at my grandma's house and taking care of her. I was able to take care of her almost every day, with my sister, and really get to, like, make that amends that I never could. And she chanted with me, and she was just, she was beautiful. And I remember getting through all of that, not thinking of a drink. But like a week before she passed, I was walking down near the beer aisle at Tops, and I just felt it. I felt, I'm powerless over this. She's gonna be gone soon. I should just drink, And I prayed, but it stayed with me for a little bit, and I realized that it had nothing to do really with the circumstances, because I've known people who have lost children in sobriety and made it through. And so I went to a meeting and I heard what I needed to hear, because I prayed what I needed to pray. I said, God, please help me see why this is happening when I'm so much sober, and I know the problem is within me. And I heard at that meeting that, something to the effect of that I have to go through the steps. I have to continue on. And that was exactly it. I had worked the steps with my sponsor, but I needed to go through them again. And at that moment that I made that connection, the thought of drinking was gone, and it didn't come back. God, I miss my mom. But I'm able, I have grief days, obviously. Like, the first month was just like, couldn't get off the couch. And, but I've stayed sober through it, because I remember you guys telling me that, like, I don't drink because of circumstances. I drink because I have a disconnect from God. And that relationship is the only thing that will save me from picking a drink. People are God with skin on, and they help me for sure when times are tough, and I need that. I need all the sides of the triangle, Holy crap, it's only 7:35. So I guess I can talk about some fun things. Because this has been a little sad. But yeah, I've had the biggest joys of my life ever since I've come into Alcoholics Anonymous and really stuck with it. I've traveled all across the country, going to see speakers and making memories, and like going to Narassa, and homecoming was like huge. Like I got to see, Clancy, Tom I, Sandy B, like all these awesome people. Dave, Bob D, who's speaking tomorrow night, I'm really excited about. Um, and I think that speaker tapes actually saved my life so many times when I just couldn't pick up that phone, you know. Um, but yeah, I'm a risk taker, I'm just like, how fast and hard can I go until I crash? And so a couple years ago, me and my best friend were going to start up a publishing company, and I was going to move down to North Carolina and do it with her, and God had other plans, but now 2 years later we're, trying to pick it back up again and see what God wants us to do with this. So, wish us luck. We're going to need it. I don't know a lot of mentally ill people that run companies, but therapy's great, meds are great. And I have my business, Rad Editing. Those are my initials. So I can do that. But yeah, I've grown so much just having people I can trust. And being able to help people, you know. I wasn't sponsoring for a while because I felt like I had nothing to give because I was so screwed up mentally, and just like working through my trauma. And so I didn't. And I'd be like, I'm not doing enough for AA. And my sponsor would be like, and others would just say to me, like, you help so many people. It doesn't always have to be taking someone through the big book, And I feel like you guys have given me that avenue where I can have something that I'm really good at, which is talking about the hopeless condition of alcoholism, the allergy, the mental obsession, like I really firmly get right now, and I know that could go away, but it hasn't gone away for 8 years, that I can never drink safely again. God's telling me to talk about my suicide attempt, and I don't want to. Because it wasn't really, don't worry. It was almost, but Ryan saved my life. So, but I guess I did too, and God did, because I picked up the phone and called her. But yeah, it was a couple months ago in January. I felt like I was going to lose my job because of this thing that I can't control. And I'm trying to get help with. But I just can't wake up in the morning. And so I was late again after they told me I can't be late again. And your accommodations, we don't care about. We're not going to try and do that. And so I had the makings of suicide attempt, and that was the first time I'd ever actually gotten that close. But by the time I got back with the whiskey, I was so excited. Bought a big bottle of whiskey, and I was just like, yes, I get to drink it with no consequences. And God had other plans, so I get back to my house, and I just ran out of steam for that particular endeavor, and I called my friend up, and she came over, and here I am. So I always, my alcoholism always tells me that my problems are unsolvable. There's too many. And I just can't do it, And God always shows me that there is another solution. So I have a lawyer, and I have a sleep study. As I'm over the moon about, so excited, because this has been a problem my whole life, and there is probably a solution, hopefully, maybe. I'm looking into alarms that like squirt water at you, but they don't exist. But legit, that's the only thing that's gonna help me. So I don't know. I definitely wanted to read this passage from the big book. I was just looking at a couple of, books before I started, and I opened to this page. It's underlined already, so I kind of feel like it's pretty important. So it says, by every form of self-deception and experimentation, they will try to prove themselves exceptions to the rule, therefore non-alcoholic. And that's what I did with my mental illness. Okay, like obviously I didn't know what it was because I'm not a friggin' doctor, but I just knew I was more alcoholic than you. I was worse off. I was alcoholic and, but I didn't know what the and was. And so getting therapy and going to adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families and a couple other 12-step groups, and just like being able to see that some of us have mental and emotional disorders that are very freaking serious, and they've always almost taken me out of, sobriety many times, or just sobriety was hell. I didn't feel a part of AA. I didn't feel like, you guys were my home. I wanted to, but I had so much mistrust and so much fear that I just couldn't let it happen. I would always just call 7 different people on 7 different occasions and, ask them questions and try and get them to fix my life, but never the same people, because I couldn't let you get to know me, And I think that terminal uniqueness is definitely still there, but on a much lesser scale, And definitely, like, I'm going through the steps right now, mostly like step action type deal with my sponsor, and I'm seeing things that I've seen before, but I didn't feel them as much as I do this time. It's like, oh, no shit, like, that's fucking with your life. Because I always just thought, like, I'm such a nice girl. Like, why does everything bad happen to me? And turns out I'm not perfect, and I'm more human than I want to be. And that's fucking cool, because if I was superhuman, then I suck at that. Like, I'm not saving the world. So it's like humility is like sinking in slowly but surely. And then I can, look at that stuff, as painful as it is, but my sponsor always points out to me that it's more painful to live that way of life without knowing what to do about it, having any awareness and being able to change it, and she always points out to me that, like, I kind of block out the good a lot. I don't know if you guys do that, but it's kind of my thing. I'm really excellent at just like seeking out the negative and being like, look, this is why life sucks, and just trying to work on that, and just trying to be more thoughtful, like during this pandemic. I have been at my grandmother's house so much, just like trying to stay away from her, but trying to give her comfort. She is a very social person, and she is frustrating, but she is alone right now. She can't go anywhere. Um, and so I just bring her groceries, or I bring her food I make. I brought her some coloring books today because she says there's nothing on TV. And just like being able to be there for my sister, now that the tables have kind of turned a little bit. Just being a beacon, of like an example for people in my life. And of course, not every day is peachy, but we gotta live for the ones that are. And, I kind of found out over these last couple weeks that like before I would just survive the bad days, and now I'm thriving through them. And it kind of looks the same. Like I watch a lot of TV. But I was able to overcome this huge blocker in my life when I'm triggered the other day. And I know that is just God and Alcoholics Anonymous, just telling me like, never give up. Always try and do your best and keep challenging the stuff that scares you, And I've been able to just be more authentic. Maybe not right in the moment because people pleasing, but soon after, I'm able to just take that pause and just say like, hey, I don't like the way this conversation is heading. I don't like the way it makes me feel, and can we do something else? Can we change it up a little bit? And people are very receptive to that because nobody wants to make anyone else feel uncomfortable. Well, maybe some douchebags, but trying to eliminate those from my life nowadays. Trying. But I have so much to be grateful for, like I could go on and on about my hobbies. And I remember like when I was drinking, I like applied for Budways, and they were like, on the application it was like, what are your hobbies? And I was like, drinking. Like, fuck. What do you think? Like, I'm 18, and definitely didn't get that job, Like I've progressed so much in my life, and I really have to honor my accomplishments. That's a really hard thing for me because I'm like, well, this is what I should be doing. But it's like, no, I should be dead. I should be dead. Oh, I should have been dead a long time ago. And I was hell-bent on making that happen for most of my life, And I was just thinking about this amazing, like, it was like an AA International Women's Coronavirus Conference. And most of it, I was just like, this is trash. I can't relate because I'm a judgmental asshole. But there was one speaker that I really connected to. And she talked about praying on her knees. And I just felt it, like I felt like that was what I needed to do. And so at the end of her talk, I got down on my knees and we, she prayed the Our Father. I prayed it with her, and it was a spiritual experience, and I don't get those if I'm drunk. I don't get those if I'm high, and more, I just want people that are on the same path as me in my life, like we're here to improve. We're not here to stay stuck. And I can just always keep growing in AA. At the start of this virus, I signed up for, being a correspondent for AA Corrections, and I'm like eagerly awaiting like my first letter. There's just always more service to do. There's always another drunk that needs help, and only we can help them, And I've just I'm just blown away by my experience when I really take a look at it, you know. I did get fired from that job that I was so scared to get fired from. And I'm starting a new job in like a week and a half. And it'll be what it'll be, you know. I know that I have to be more honest about what's going on with me. Like, I'm still so scared of what a lot of people think of me, or how to act. You know, it's like crazy how much we overthink. But I know that I can always turn back to the literature. I can turn back to you people. I can turn back to meetings. Thank God we have this technology, you know. It's fucking weird and like awkward at times, and thank God it's there for us, you know. So I guess I'll just say that I love my kitties. And I love my friends, and they're really my family. You know, I have my Buddhist family, I have my AA family, I have a bunch of different families, and whew, I even have my real family, you know, like they like me, and I think that I know that today most of the time. So I'm not gonna go on and on because I could about all the amazing spiritual experiences that have happened to me in this program. There's just one I'll share because it's so cool. So I was giving my lead at St. Amelia's, and it was, before I started, there was this guy celebrating like some crazy number of years of sobriety, like 30 something, 28 maybe. And I was like, that's amazing. And when they said his name, and you know, I didn't know his last name, so I was just like, okay, great. But I gave my lead, and I talked about how I grew up in Black Rock, and my mom was a librarian, like all this different stuff. And so he comes up to me after the meeting, and he's like, I know your whole family. And I'm like, what? Like, no one knows my whole family. And he did. He freaking grew up with my dad and my uncle, who passed away of alcoholism, and he had like a crazy ass story. I hope he doesn't see this. I hope it's okay that I share it. I mean, maybe I shouldn't. Okay. Never mind. I'm not into gossip anymore, but it's really juicy, but I won't. You'll have to just meet him at a meeting and find out for yourself. So, but it was just this like amazing experience because I was really in it that day. I was really upset about my parents passing and my uncle, and just to know that like he was there and he was proud of me and I could be proud of him for 1 billion years sober. It's just a miracle of God, and you have to be in it to win it, basically. Like, if I don't show up at these meetings, I don't know how to grow. I don't know how to embrace, and I don't know how to trust. So I'm so grateful for meetings right now because I was never a sharer, never a talker about feelings or any of that crap, you know? And now I get to. And I get to let it out. And I get to have people understand me. And I get to have people, you know, comfort me and support me and encourage me. And that's a wild, wild journey for someone who came from a low place. And every time I swear to God that I give a lead, I always just think, you can only go up from here, you know? And it's not up like this. It's up like this. But it's always up, you know? And I don't know, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude right now. So And I really didn't want to do this. And it was so funny. I was like freaking out, like couldn't breathe, was going to throw up, like all this stuff. And I feel great doing this and knowing that I could be of service to Alcoholics Anonymous. But when I was freaking out a couple hours ago, I get a call from somebody else in AA saying, hey, can you speak tonight? And I'm like, unfortunately, I already have an engagement. And he's like, okay, well, you have to speak next week. And I'm like, okay, cool. And of course I'll fucking freak out before then too, but I just want to say I'm really grateful for this. I think I said that a billion times, but I am still learning how to be grateful, and so every time that I actually am, it's like a shock to me. And I just want to say, like, never give up, you know? Like, it was damn near impossible for this drunk to break out of that self-deception that, you know, she was different. And we all have that. I just didn't drink through it because I was too scared. No, but I'm gonna say it again. I'm really grateful. And thank you, Jolyn, for asking me to, share. And I'm going to say the Our Father with Rayanne. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. God bless. Love you guys. Thanks for watching. I don't know how to stop this. Oh, finish.